Rockin' Pies with a live audience. I'm here with Dino Cazares of Fear Factory. So many other awesome
Yeah! Yeah!
Asesino Brujeria. So I'm really excited to have you here because the whole point of this show is to bring both the music sides of rock stars and people in the industry and kind of like teach the youth, what you've learned in so many years of being a rock star and the business side of it. So.
Well, first I want to say is thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Two is this place is really cool. It's called Rockin' Pies, and it's here
Sherman
in
Oaks?
Sherman Oaks. Yeah, it's really cool.
So we're gonna have more
Yeah,
parties here?
I would love to have more parties here. The beer's great, the
Awesome.
pizza's great, the chicken wings are great, and we have a live audience here.
They're fantastic. We're going to get to them at the end, get some questions out of them to ask you. But, I wanted to see when you started with Fear Factory, kind of tell us, we all know that you were in it, but what started the band and you started the band?
Well, a long time ago in 1984, I moved here from a place called El Centro, California, which is about 5 miles from the Mexican border, east of Los Angeles. And I moved here, and my first job was at Togo's making sandwiches.
Oh, nice.
And one day I saw some metalhead dudes walking in. I'm like, oh my God. And so I was a young, inspiring musician. I really wanted to get into the business. So I was like, if I'm going to talk to these dudes who are in a band, I'm going to offer them free beer and free food so I can go pick their brain and find out some information. And so I ended up giving the band Megadeth, early Megadeth, free food. Dave Elson and Dave Mustaine.
Mm-hmm.
And when they went to go sit down, I just started asking them a bunch of questions about how they made it and stuff. They were just giving me a lot of pointers. And so
What did you ask him?
ask them how do they meet, how do they get together, or where do they go to meet people in the industry and stuff like that. And they ended up coming in a few times, and I asked them a bunch of questions like that. And so that's basically what I did. I networked, and I started joining local bands, and I started just getting to know a lot of the musicians in the local area. And when I found all the right musicians that I really liked, I ended up putting bands together.
What advice did Dave Mustaine give you? Because that's really interesting. That's kind of what.
Well, that's kind of like what I was telling you. Is just to network, and just to network and just meeting the right people, being at the right place at the right time, and I was never really into partying that much or no drugs, nothing like that. So I didn't have any drugs to offer any of the musicians. So so I didn't really network in that way.
And when you met the band members of Brujeria, how did you start all that?
No, I didn't. That started from the guys in Faith No More, and we kind of all were. Well, what happened was that we had this apartment in Hollywood, and what we would do is we would go to the shows from all the metal bands from rock to metal. And we would say, hey, we're having an after party at our house. So all these bands would come over, and that's how we just kind of networked, and we started meeting all these musicians, and from there, we were able to put groups together, and one of them happened to be a super group called Brujeria, which was me, a guy named Pat Hoyd, John Lepe, and Billy Gould from Faith No More. And that's how we kind of just started from there and just kind of grew. It turned out to be a project, an anonymous project, and that later on turned into a touring band.
Awesome. And then from there, Asesino and that band?
Well, from there, years and years later, back in 2001, I was like, I needed to start my own band, in the vein of Brujeria. So we did one thing called Asesino. And so Asesino is basically me and Tony Campos from Static X, but he's in a million bands now. Ministry, Prong, and Soulfly, and Cavalier Conspiracy, and it just goes on and on. And a guy named Emilio Marquez, who's in a band called Possessed. And so we started Asesino, and that's basically a more fresher and more extreme version of Brujeria. Brujeria. And asesino means assassin in Spanish. And basically, we were telling the story of one particular assassin that we're telling his story, like his tales of death and how he does, how he assassinates people and just all the drama that he has to go through and all the things that he has to investigate before he goes and assassinates someone. You have to, follow them, stalk them, things like that. So that's just one project. But years before that, Brujeria started in 1989. A year later, I co-founded Fear Factory in 1990, which Wikipedia is really wrong about that. It started in 1990, not 1989. I keep reading that for some reason everywhere.
I asked you that.
Yeah, and so we started Fear Factory, and again, having those parties at our apartment with all the different musicians and going to the shows and just inviting people. Like there was one time where it was Sick of It All and Biohazard played at the place called the Palace in Hollywood, which doesn't exist anymore. It's called the Avalon now, but they played there, and Evan from Biohazard got on the microphone and said, "Yo, party at Dino's house. This is the address." We're like, "Oh my God!" It was like 1,000 people there.
How were the parties
and
back then?
a couple hundred people showed up to a one-bedroom apartment trying to get into a party. You know what I mean? But just from that, we ended up meeting people from record companies, Earache Records, Metal Blade Records, Nuclear Blast, and so on, Roadrunner Records, and we just started meeting people from those companies. So when Fear Factory did their first demo, I already knew the people, and so I was shopping them the demo. So
who were your earliest influences? I read AC/DC.
Well, of course,
Van Halen.
Yeah, AC/DC definitely. I mean, that's pretty much where I started listening to rock and heavier stuff. Kind of progressed from there. So it was like AC/DC, of course, Alice Cooper and Van Halen and Judas Priest, and then it got into the newer stuff like, early Motley Crue and of course the Van Halens, and it just got bigger, faster and heavier from then, from Metallica, Slayer, Exodus, Venom, and so on and so on. So
out of all the genres that you played, like death metal, thrash metal, groove metal, what's your favorite?
My favorite genre is all of the above.
All the above. Well, yeah.
All the above, as long as it sounds good and it's rocking, like Raquel, Rockin Raquel. As long as it's heavy and fast and and just has a good beat, good energy, good riff, killer hook, I'm into it.
So you have a new project, and what kind of music? Obviously all metal, but kind of what type of feel?
Yeah, okay.
Can you tell me more about it?
I'm starting a new project. Well, I started already with a solo record, so I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to have a vocalist on it or not.
Okay. Ooh, instrumental only?
But the style is just, I think most people who follow my music know my style. Guitar riffs, ripping guitar riffs with killer double bass syncopated with each other. That's pretty much my style. Anything melodic, heavy, fast, I like it.
So any kind of business advice that you could give some, entrepreneurs, kids getting into the music industry now, like how things have changed and what you've seen change?
Well, from my day, a lot of things have changed. Of course, everybody knows, it goes without saying, that the internet has definitely changed. A lot of entrepreneurs start on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, and so on, and that's pretty much what you got to do nowadays, just to get your name out there.
I see you on Twitter.
But it's okay. I mean, somebody could be, promoting themselves a lot. But if you don't have a good song or a good quality produced demo, a lot of people are not going to take it seriously. So that's one of the first things, is make sure you write some good songs, make sure you have a good quality song, good quality demo, and then just start pushing it that way. And in some ways, a lot of people I know don't even have to get signed nowadays. They can just put a single out and just put it out themselves, get paid through residuals from different companies.
Is there any special guests that will be on your new project, on your solo project? Will you be touring?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to have any special guests. Maybe I will. It's like when it gets to the point where I'm done writing the album, then maybe I will call some people in to come and a special guest on it. But I haven't really planned on it yet, but it's definitely in the back of my mind to ask guys like Chris Broderick or Jamie Josta, hard, guys like that to maybe come and do some stuff on it.
Do you prefer like large festivals, clubs?
I prefer all of it. As long as I'm playing and people enjoy what I'm playing and it makes people happy, to me it doesn't matter if it's a bar like this or if it's a gigantic festival. As long as people are happy, I'm happy, and I just enjoy playing. I think sometimes one of the hardest things is playing in front of a smaller crowd. Like if I were to get a guitar here right now, I would definitely no problem play. I wouldn't be scared and I would do it. But in the back of my mind, I'll be like, oh my God, there's like 20 people watching me play these riffs right now. I can mess up. I know, that's kind of a little bit more terrifying than playing a big festival.
So, I heard an interview. Are you still into CDs, or what do you think about vinyls now? How a lot of bands are putting out vinyls.
Vinyl, obviously, vinyls make a major comeback in the last years and years, last 5 years or so. But we try to release everything on vinyl nowadays because we know that, people are going to buy it. They like to collect it, which is really cool. CDs are basically non-existent, as people know that now already.
Out of all the tours that you've been on, do you have like a couple that really stand out to you?
Tours, of course, Metallica. I mean, we did Metallica tour back in 2010. That was one of the most greatest experiences of my life because it's a whole new level of touring. I mean, we're not talking about it like in a van crammed with like 20 dudes in a van. We're talking about like, flying everywhere and, going in killer buses and playing it in front of 50,000 people a night. That's a whole different level. Yeah. You got to take a golf cart to the stage. That's how far you are. You know what I mean?
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
it's just one of those experiences that that not a lot of people get to have, which I wish a lot of people were able to, but we were one of the lucky ones that Metallica took us on tour.
Definitely. So if you weren't playing, which obviously probably, it's what you've always wanted to do, what other kind of job or something else that you're interested in? I know you like guitars, owning a guitar company.
Well, I've always wanted to like own my own guitar company so I can make my own stuff, because I'm really into guitars a lot. I know you were going to ask me about this earlier, but I like to clean shoes.
That's so cool. There's a career in that.
Somebody goes, go get your shoe shine box. Go get your shine box. Yeah, I don't know. I was into sneakers for a while, and I used to have a collection of sneakers that I used to like to clean all the time. And my wife always tells me, can you clean my shoes? And people, I would do that on tour. I would actually clean. It's weird. I know it's a weird thing, but I would see somebody with a nice pair of sneakers.
That's so interesting.
I would see people with a nice pair of sneakers. I'm like, damn, those sneakers look horrible, bro. Let me help you out. Let me clean them. No, man, it's all good. I go, no, really, please help me. You're actually helping me, because it's just an obsession that I have that I like to clean people's shoes, and I clean them. Shoes. I clean them, and they're like, oh my God, dude, these are like brand new. I'm like, exactly. Yes, thank you. But I always put gloves on because you don't want to get. I don't want to get any infections in my fingers.
So if you were to run a guitar company, what would you do different that you've seen all the major guitar companies
done? Put my name on it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we gotta get that started.
Cazares. It's got a good ring to it.
It does.
Ibanez, Cazares. You know what I mean? So Fernandez, Cazares. It fits in all the line of Spanish.
It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
So what can we expect next? Like coming up for NAMM, do you have anything special signings, parties that we're gonna have here at Rockin' Pies?
It might be a little bit too early to know what exactly I'm going to be doing for NAMM, but for sure I'll be there partying.
Heck yeah, me too. We gotta bring the party. We gotta bring the party here.
I got a question.
What's your question?
The question is, Why does cleaning shoes make you feel so good?
Because it's kind of like a therapy thing, you know. Like I said, I used to have a collection of shoes. Well, actually, it goes further back than that. When I was a kid, I used to play baseball, and my older brothers were baseball stars in Mexico, and they used to always give me the hand-me-downs of cleats, or just shoes in general, like some old Nikes or whatever, and I would be like, man, these are all wore out. I need to clean them up so I can look nice for school. So I would clean them up, and I would, use them for school, or when I was playing baseball, I'd clean the cleats off, and so it just started way back then.
How many shoes do you own now?
I don't own a lot of shoes anymore, but when I did back then,
So you were talking about your tour with Metallica. Talk about your other best music festivals you performed at, or what were your top ones or shows you performed?
Top festivals that I played, one of them was Wacken. Wacken's an amazing
that's
festival. We played it way many years ago, and even up till recently. But it's one of the best festivals there is. Sweden Rock, which is in Sweden, which is one of the amazing festivals in Sweden, because they actually had like a 5-star restaurant in the backstage for all the artists. Yeah, it's amazing. Of course, Bloodstock, one of the heavy ones of England, which is a killer festival. I mean, there's so many, but those come to mind.
So European concerts what's the difference between out there? Because I've never traveled outside of America for shows, at least.
One of the things I like about Europe and the European clubs, compared to the U.S. and the U.S. clubs, one of the cool things is that the European clubs have, no matter what size club it is, if it's like a place that only holds 200 to a place that holds 200,000, they all have showers.
Oh, that's
And
good.
when you're on tour, that's very important. Showers.
You had mentioned.
And so here, if I were to play Rockin' Pies, where's my shower?
The sink. I don't know.
The sink, exactly. So I'm just saying, it's like a lot of clubs here don't have showers. So what we would do is we became best friends with baby wipes.
Mm-hmm.
Baby wipes are our best friend. Yep.
The Key Club had showers. That was a good.
I learned how to use baby wipes, not necessarily on tour. It was from strippers. Strippers always use baby wipes. I'm like, why are they using baby wipes? Oh, okay, now I know. And so, boom, they clean their private parts. That's perfect on the road.
Any stories with any? I'm just kidding.
Did I throw you off there?
Yeah, I was like,
Well,
I
you
just
asked
looked
me
around.
the experiences of how I learned things on the road.
Yeah,
That's one of them.
Well, what about Artist Delight? Are you still using that?
Artist Delight?
Artist Delight, that tour bus that had
I love
the
that.
toilets. Yeah.
Yes, they.
Never
that
people on
Artist
the tour bus.
We discovered Artist Delight somewhere around later 2009, 2010, around there. And they had, it's a double-decker bus, which they don't have in America. They have double-decker bus, and it had a full shower, a full toilet that you could actually poop in. And it was
Turns to liquid, right? You said it turns.
It's a shredder.
Oh my gosh.
And then, so it was great. So then we did a tour, I believe it was 2013, with us and Devin Townsend. And we told Devin, yo, we got this bus. We got to take this bus. So we shared this bus, and people were like, oh my God, it's got a toilet. It's got a shower. Like, wow. But, it's funny. Like I said, in Europe, we didn't necessarily need showers because every club had showers.
They're spoiled. The rock stars out there spoiled.
Exactly.
So, tell me something interesting that you learned, like I guess the hard way, about business or what not to do, like on tour, or.
I think probably some of the things that I regret is over the years probably giving the rights to a trademark or compositions that I wrote, sharing them with people who never wrote any of the music or were not there from the beginning. Those are probably the one things that I do regret.
You got an example?
Yeah, so.
Stories are great for the show.
Just if you're a band starting a band out, you just got to make sure that all the musicians are on the same page. All of them are there when you're working. I mean, I've heard so many excuses. Like when the band's writing songs, I've heard so many excuses when band members don't want to go to rehearsal.
Yeah, they're around the party.
My girlfriend, whatever. 9 times out of 10, it's always a girlfriend thing. and they don't want to show up. And so those guys get cut out. But over the years, I didn't discover that till later on in life, because I always thought a band's a band and everybody shares everything equally. But no, I realized later on that those guys didn't even do anything. Like, why am I sharing anything with those guys when they didn't do anything? So, you know, that's in general, just all bands in general. You know what I mean? So.
And what about some secrets about getting along? Because I know all band members, they don't get along. There's always,
Of course not.
the lead
all members
singer.
I mean, when you're around each
but-
other for years and years and years and years, of course you're bound to get into fights. And,
Sure.
you know,
How do you avoid them?
It's not necessarily a sexual relationship, but it's a relationship
Sure. Uh-huh.
that you're around people all the time. You're in one long tube. It's a bus. It's a tube, basically.
Living
and-
together.
Yeah, living together, but it's not necessarily living together in an apartment. You're living in a bus or in a van
Yeah.
or in a hotel room. You know, you're right next to each other 24/7. Of course, you're going to get on each other's nerves. It happens. To the best of friends, it happens.
So bands are like businesses. How did you treat, I don't know, you name any band, Fear Factory, like a business when you guys separated and came back together? Those must have been, logical, reasonable reasons why.
So how do we treat it like a business?
Yeah, how was it? It was like bands are like businesses. Like that's what I think.
Of course, that's one of the biggest misconceptions in the music industry, is like when a lot of guys get together, a lot of bands get together, like, oh, everything's all be fun and games, and a lot of people don't realize that a lot of work goes involved, and the minute you make your first dollar, it becomes a business.
Sure.
And there's guys who on a different page, and they don't really understand the business, and things just, they get kind of left behind.
When did things turn when it wasn't fun or not that it wasn't fun anymore, but
I'm
yeah.
not sure
when
what you're talking about.
Well, when in a band,
Because music to me is still fun.
no matter what.
And business-wise, it's still fun. Sure, there are bumps in the road, and it goes up and down. Sometimes you make a lot of money, sometimes you make a little bit of money, and sometimes you make no money. It's just entertainment in general is that way. I mean, I got a friend here who makes movies and writes movies, and it's up and down for him as well. People got to get.
I can relate, definitely. We have a question over here.
Actually, I have two questions. First off, you were saying you're working at Togo's as a young guy. If you were working at Togo's as a young guy in 2017, what do you think you might do differently if you had to try to get to where you were today?
If I wasn't working at Togo's,
If you were in 2017, you were a young guy, how do you think it would be different? Trying to get to where you are right now.
how would I think it'd be different? Well, nowadays they have the internet, so it's a lot easier to look up anything you're looking for and try to get your foot in the door in that way. For me, it wasn't that way. For me, it was just like, trying to find those guys that are in bands to ask them questions and pick their brain. So at least on the internet, you can actually talk to your favorite musician. People will contact me all the time on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, and so on. And sometimes I'll answer their question. If it's like something that I have time to answer, sometimes I'll answer their question and give them advice. So that's one of the benefits, 2017 versus 1984. You know what I mean?
Was there another one? Yeah.
Well, way back in, I believe it was 1989, or maybe, 89 or 90, somewhere around there. I met a guy named Max Cavalera at this thing called the Foundations Forum, which is like a NAMM. It was a music industry convention that happened every year. I wish they still had it because it was so fun. And one day this guy came up to me and goes, "Dino." I'm like, who are you? I didn't know who he was at the time. I knew Sepultura, I just didn't know who he was. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I like a brujeria, blah, blah, blah." He's like, and I'm like, okay. And then I just was kind of partying with him for a little bit. And then until somebody said, "Hey Max, Sepultura." I'm like, "Oh shit." Then it clicked in my head. And I forgot what the question was, but oh yeah, so I met him back then, and then we just became friends over the years. So when they did, before that, 1994, they took us out on one of our first U.S. tours. Sepultura did. And so when he was doing the Nail Bomb record, I played on the Nail Bomb record as well. And then when he did a solo record, Eye for an Eye, I'm sorry, what was it called? I can't. Soulfly One out there. I don't think there's an album title, but anyways, the song was Eye for an Eye, and he asked me to come down. So, but Ross Robinson produced that record. I think you know that. And so I've known Ross Robinson since I was a teenager. When we were both teenagers, we were roommates in Hollywood back in the late 80s, 88, 89, maybe before that, 87, around there. And we were really good friends, and he produced the first Fear Factory demo. The third demo, and he got us signed, or he helped us. I'm sorry, the third demo that he recorded for us, we shopped it, and we got signed from it. He also produced one of my early bands called the Douche Lords back in 1987 or 88, around there, and he produced that. So, I mean, we've been friends for a long time. So that's where all the connection came from.
Probably way off base. Okay. I always find it interesting when an artist is known for a particular genre to find out that they secretly like certain songs or certain bands or artists that we would be shocked, just completely shocked that you like those songs or bands.
I don't know if that really applies nowadays. I think people have come out just liking music in general. You know what I mean? Especially when you're a musician, you appreciate all kinds of stuff. But I know back in the day, like when Metallica and Slayer were first starting out, if they said they liked Madonna or whatever, you know, people would probably talk shit to them. But nowadays, it's like whatever, you know, people like what they like.
Is there any off the cuff?
I do like a lot of '80s new wave stuff. But I like so much stuff. Jimmy Buffett. I mean, it's all over the place. Styx. It's all over the place. And it's cool because other musicians that I know, I share that with them as well. You know what I mean? Because there are times where I do go to concerts like Styx. Like, hey, you know, I see metalheads there. Like, hey, I know you. Hey, I know you. And it's like, it's no big deal anymore. So
Ozfest just happened this past weekend.
I wasn't there.
You didn't go? All right, well.
I didn't get to go to Ozfest.
I got to talk to Jennifer. Well, my question actually was like, you know, what's your fondest memory of playing Ozfest, being at Ozfest?
Ozfest was amazing. We played the first Ozfest in 1996, and then we did the first tour in 1997 with Pantera, and I believe Marilyn Manson was on that too. And that was great because it was like, you know, all the buses were parked side by side, and so everybody was going to everybody's bus and partying and drinking their beer and hanging out. So that was really fun. It was like summer camp in a way.
And from the beginning till now, how have you seen it like change? Like just tours and Ozfest in general, just being backstage and seeing the people and how it's being run.
Well,
a lot less fun, a lot less like summer camp.
no, I wouldn't say it's a lot less fun. I would say it's become probably more business-like than prior, because money has become tighter. So, you know, they had to change the food and things like that. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a different vibe. But it's still cool. I love it. Don't get me wrong.
Do you guys have any questions you guys want to ask?
Fama. Who came up with the name Fear Factory? My roommate, a guy named Robert Murray. They called him Metal Rob because he's a DJ in San Francisco. He was my roommate at the time, and when we were looking for a name, he goes, "Why don't you call it Fear Factory?" And I'm like, because we had a list of names, and Factory was one of them. And so he goes, "Why don't you put fear in front of that?" And I'm like, okay. So basically, he came up with a name. So he's like, "I came up with a name, so you have to buy the name from me." And I said, "Okay, what do you want?" And he goes, about 5 Snickers and a couple 2-liter Pepsis. I'm like, "Really?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Okay." So I got him some Snickers and Pepsi, and I got the name. But he was also a guy who rode bikes all the time, so he wanted that sugar to keep him going. So
You were saying like the Fear
He's
Factor.
still that way, by the way. Hold on, Fama's got
Oh,
a...
sorry, go ahead.
Fama. Okay, yes, she is correct. I wasn't able to play the Knot Fest in Mexico, and I completely am sorry for all the fans out there and to Slipknot for not being able to make it. But unfortunately, I had an accident and I fractured my fibula a few days before the festival, so I really couldn't go. Our next show is December 16th at the Whiskey A Go-Go. It's going to be our Christmas show. So it's the Assassino Christmas show.
Are you going to have your after party here at Rockin' Pies?
Possibly. Possibly.
Does everyone know how you fractured your leg?
How I fractured my
Yeah, what
leg.
happened?
I don't like to talk about it.
Okay, never mind. But, all right, so will the
Jennifer
lady-
hit me in the leg with a bat. She's like, you fucking up. That's how it happened.
So there's going to be some future shows, though, with your other
She's
band?
like, Dodgers lost. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, if there's anything else, I mean, we'd love to know now. If there-
Just be on the lookout for my solo record next year. I'm excited to do that. So,
be awesome.
and I'm also I've been helping out a couple of local bands. One of them is called Spades and Blades, and the other one is my friend over here, Jordan. His band. What's the name of it? Dark Sun. I had a brain fart. Dark Sun, and we're working on the fourth song now. And so be looking out for Dark Sun and Spades and Blades.
Yeah, Spades and Blades, I interviewed them. They're a Solon band. Are they still working with Solon?
I
It's
believe,
a while
yes,
ago.
they are.
Awesome.
Yes, they are.
They're pretty cool. Well, all right. Well, thanks so much, Dino. Appreciate it. Coming
Thank
out
you
here
very
at
much.
Rockin' Pies. Thank you everyone who came out. Make sure to check it out on RaquelFiglo.com. Thank you.
And Rockin Raquel.
Awesome.